All right, thanks, Ed. My name is Mitch Mitchell. I'm the co-owner of Coastal Kayak in Fenwick Island. I've been paddling in this area for about 30 years. I'm also an instructor trainer for the American Canoe Association in both kayak and paddleboard. Instructor trainers are responsible for certifying instructors, and I also hold a U.S. Coast Guard captain's license as well. So today we're going to be talking about different styles of kayaks as well as the strengths and weaknesses of each style. And I'll also be talking briefly about equipment, both what's required and some suggestions on what you might want to use in addition to that or take with you. The three styles of kayaks that we're going to be discussing, the first is the sit-on-top kayak, which is very popular these days. The second style is the recreational style kayak. And then finally, we'll talk about the touring kayak or the sea kayak. So the sit-on-top kayak is the one that really got the kayaking craze started back in the mid-'80s. A company named Ocean Kayak started making kayaks that you could sit on top of. And as you can tell by looking at it, it's very user-friendly, easy to get in and out of. They're self-draining, which is really nice. So if you were to capsize, you could right the boat, the water would drain out, and you could climb right back up on it. One of the original problems with the sit-on-top kayaks is they weren't all that comfortable. So some companies in the last 6 or 7 years have started making these a lot more comfortable with a lot more bells and whistles. This is a Wilderness Systems tarpon. It's got storage compartments, adjustable seat backs and seat pads, foot braces that move, and it's a really comfortable, really nice kayak. Plus it's a sit-on-top, so it's self-draining. If there were any negatives to the sit-on-top kayaks, they're a little bit on the heavy side. And when you get into the fancier ones like this, they tend to be a bit pricey as well. The next type of kayak that we're going to talk about is the recreational style kayak. These have a big open cockpit. You sit down in them. They're very comfortable. One of the big pluses with these is they're extremely lightweight. They're great for all the inland bays and waterways around here, close to shore. Really nice. And you can paddle these pretty much anywhere as long as it's not too far away from shore. And that's because the recreational kayaks have one weakness to them, and that is that if you were to capsize in one of these, it's going to fill up with water. So if you were paddling by yourself and you capsize, you're going to have to walk or swim that thing back to shore in order to get the water out and get back in it. If there are two of you paddling, and there are ways to do a rescue on this boat, get the water out and get the person back in it. I think we have a video of that on our website, and you could do that, but it does take some training, and it's not all that easy to do actually. So I would definitely say recreational style kayaks are great in shallow waters, near shore, bays, lakes, rivers, creeks, that kind of thing. Now the third style of kayak that we're going to talk about is a sea kayak or the touring kayak, and you can tell by looking at it that it's longer and narrower and skinnier. It's got storage compartments in it. You typically wear a skirt with these to seal the water out. Probably the big benefit to these is you can get places that you couldn't ordinarily get to in the other style of kayaks because these are so fast. So that's a big plus with them, although they do take some training. And another big positive to the sea kayak is because of their design and the fact that you fit in there very snugly. They're just at home in a freshwater pond as they are in open ocean conditions. So with proper training and practice, you can take these pretty much anywhere you want. This is a fun day in the Indian River Inlet. You can also tip these over and do an Eskimo roll if you've been trained how to do that, and come right back up. So the sea kayaks, if they have a negative, it would probably be that they do require some training and instruction in order to paddle them safely and efficiently. They're also, fairly expensive compared to the other styles of kayaks for the most part. So let's go ahead and talk for a second about some equipment. First of all, what's required by the Coast Guard? Coast Guard requires that we have a PFD or a life jacket. It has to be accessible unless we're under 13 and we have to wear it. And we also have to have a sound signaling device, which typically would be a whistle. what most people use to satisfy that requirement. You can see here I've also got some inflatable life jackets. A couple different things as far as those are concerned. If you have an inflatable life jacket, you do have to wear it all times, and you have to be at least 16 in order to wear one of those. If you paddle at night, there's a couple other requirements. You have to have a handheld light, and you have to have an emergency distress signal that's suitable for nighttime use. I typically use a little flare gun. You can see one down there on the left, a little 12 gauge flare gun. They also make some less expensive ones called pencil flares that you can get. I don't know if they do much good, but they certainly meet the requirements. Of course, what other things that you might want to take with you that aren't required? Typical things like hat, sunscreen, drinking water. Cell phone would be good to have, and a dry bag to put the cell phone in. It's a good idea to get one of the dry bags where you can actually operate the cell phone right through the dry bag so you don't have to take it out. If you're in a recreational style kayak or a touring kayak, I would use a pump. That's what that is standing up on the left over there. Good idea to take a first aid kit, maybe a tow line with you, or some sort of line so you could help someone else or tie your boat up to something if you needed to. And one other important thing that I'll point out, if you're on a paddleboard, all these same rules apply to paddleboards. But one other thing I would definitely recommend is getting a leash. A leash attaches your ankle to the end of the paddleboard, so if you fall off, you're not going to lose the paddleboard, or you're not going to have to let go of your paddle to swim after your paddleboard. If you were to fall off a paddleboard in the windy conditions, as an example right here, very easy to have the wind pick up your board and blow it away from you, and then you're in for a long swim. In this case, I fell off, watched the board, and when the wind gets under it right about here, and there it goes. Had I not had a leash on, that would have been really tough to catch up to that board. I probably would have had to swim to shore at that point. One other little thing I'll mention with regard to equipment, not really equipment, but definitely when you're paddleboarding, you want to wear some foot protection. You end up jumping off, or kayaking, but when you jump off a paddleboard, you can land on a crab trap or horseshoe crab or something sharp on the bottom. So it's really a good idea to wear foot protection whenever you go out. So that's pretty much it. And if you have any questions, we're going to have a question and answer period at the end. So you can ask me the questions and I'll hopefully be able to answer them. Thanks a lot.